Hey everyone, it's Chris. Welcome back to another New Issues, New Week. Today's Wednesday, so you know what that means. We've got our new polls to go over. But before we do that, we're going to go over some of last week's reads. Just a quick recap of some stuff that I went through. And we can start with the first couple that, I just liked whatever. I got kind of one here. I guess I could just show you. Circus Maximus was kind of the one that I want to, go over the most. It was something interesting. I wanted to give a little indie love because no indie pulls this week, unfortunately. This week was a little bit of a light week, but it was like all Marvel and DC stuff. So, I wanted to talk about Circus Maximus a bit. But before we do that, I'll go over some of the other ones I have. So, Speed Racer issue 4, really cool. Kind of same thing we've been going through. Speed and Racer X working together. He's working his way through the races. They raced on the mountain where his brother died, Racer X technically, or Speed thinks he died. So they raced that race together and kind of ended with Speed in a bit of a precarious situation. So cool issue. Amazing X-Men 2 and Binary number 2 for the Age of Revelation. So Amazing X-Men rules. I love that line. This part was really cool. It was Cyclops and Darkchild. They sort of had a duel together in truths where they had to speak truth to each other and it would deal damage, they knock back or whatever. And it was just kind of cool for the writing part of it, I guess. The dialogue and stuff I enjoyed. Binary number 2, I thought was kind of a letdown. I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting a lot more from where we ended with the first one, but I feel like it was just a lot more recapped and stuff. So didn't really get much more of what I wanted. Just kind of extra stuff. It felt like, I'm sure it has its reasons, but just personally not where I thought that issue was gonna be going. On top of that, I did end up picking these 2 issues up because this wasn't in my video last week for my New Issues, New Week. So I did pick up issue 2 of Sabretooth and issue 2 of Longshots because I found out that all of these are only going to be 3 issues long for the whole series pretty much, and then Age of Revelation's over. So I was like, I'll check them out, I'll read it, why not? These 2, if anyone watched my Age of Revelation video, Longshots was on my list for things I decided I was not going to pull. I think the same for Sabretooth even. Sabretooth I think actually definitely was. Longshots I was kind of iffy about. So neither of these were really things at the top of my list, which is why I skipped on them last week. But like I said, since it's only 3 issues, I was like, I'll just check them out. To be honest, I think it probably still would be on my do not pull list if they were going to be longer than 3 issues. Even if I was let me just check out the second one, this definitely was confirmation for me. I'm either of these stories I'm not really crazy about. So is what it is. Amazing X-Men though so far for Age of Revelation on point. Next we got Batman issue number 3. That was cool. We had the Riddler. He had his new stealth suit appearance. I will say the only thing about this new Batman line that I'm kind of starting to feel a little iffy on is I like the whole singular story per issue, but I feel like it's trying to cover a lot of ground where instead of focusing on one singular point in the issue, it's hey, we got family stuff, we got Bruce's internal stuff, we got stuff with the villains. It just feels like we're bouncing around a bit a lot, and it's not done poorly. It's done really well. It reads great. It's just for me and my personal interest, it's I would rather we get a nice, complete, well-rounded story on a singular topic, whether or not we build to that eventually, when we get a really big bad or some maybe longer arc that happens. I'm not too sure, but at least for now, like I said, it's done really well. It's a great read, but for my personal taste, I'm I feel like we're just trying to cover a lot when I would like to focus maybe on one thing for just an issue, just to see how it is, but that's just a me thing. We read the Night Fight issue 1 last week. We read the Ice Cream Man last week. The only other one that I read was Absolute Green Lantern issue number 8. So Absolute Green Lantern issue number 8 was really cool. Kind of similar to the Binary where it's not quite what I was expecting. I was thinking we were going to go a lot more broad, and instead we just did all kind of flashback and catching up to fill in information to where we're at. And it's I appreciate it, don't really need it. I feel I like having the context of their relationship, I guess, but I feel we could have filled it in without giving the entire issue dedicated to it. I'd like seeing her relationship with her dad and kind of the path that she got set on, because it's very clearly set out. You can see why, her reason for a lot of stuff. I liked Montoya. Seeing Montoya there was pretty cool. Another one with the Batman, I'm it was extremely well done, just not quite what I was looking for. I was hoping to go more out with the story, and maybe next issue we'll do that. Issue 7, where it ended, or was it 6? 6 or 7 basically ended with Joe and Hal walking into her apartment, and then this issue ended with the exact same scene. So it's we didn't really do anything new. We just kind of, like I said, filled in some old flashback information, which cool, but hopefully next issue we pick back up. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about was Circus Maximus here is sort of my main, not, I wouldn't say poll of the week from last week, but at least from the other stuff I read outside of the video, this is kind of what intrigued me the most. So for anyone who's interested in any Roman history or knows about Emperor Nero being this character right here on the cover, this issue, I thought, at least for the whole story, was kind of set up to be this big heist between these four individuals, unique individuals. There's an architect, there is someone who's just about to be free of buying his own freedom from slavery, there's a like religious virgin woman who has like 20 more years in her service or whatever, and then there's a charioteer. And the four of them are working together for this heist, and they break into this vault. I thought that was the whole thing. That happens in this issue, so they break into it, they complete the heist. Only thing is, they don't just get money, they find some plans for something that Nero wants to build. So this is where the history comes in. For anyone who knows the history of Rome and Nero, back at the time there was a big fire that happened, and I think it lasted for like 6 days or something like that, but it burnt down like 2/3 of Rome, was all destroyed. And Nero, in its place of the rubble and remains, basically wanted to build a giant temple, this big building or whatever it was. And a lot of speculation happened at the time, I guess, where people were assuming maybe Nero was responsible for the fire so that he could, build this in its place with, out being blamed or accused of anything. He could just get away with the fire and then now construct it. I think at the time, in order to get rid of these rumors or whatever, he basically blamed it on Christians, because Christianity in Rome at the time was basically the equivalent of like a small cult, and he just gathered anyone and everyone he could and like brutally tortured them and murdered them just out in public for people. So Nero was an interesting character for sure. But yeah, a lot of this, I guess, from here on out is going to be following that story, because the plans that they find at the end of the heist are for this temple or whatever that Nero wants to build. And then final page, spoiler, but we see Nero starting the fire. Him and some of his people are setting Rome on fire. So really interesting. Not what I was expecting, but I'm even more intrigued now to continue reading this to see what happens, especially because, like I said, I thought it was all just going to be about this heist and these four individuals. Now I'm like, what are they going to do? What role are they going to have in the rest of this whole event taking place? Because at this point, they're not really related to Nero at all. Circus Maximus is the event that's going on. This big Colosseum event is the Circus Maximus. The charioteer from one of our crew members is participating. He gets asked to like throw the match basically and refuses, so he gets locked up. So he's not even really part of their heist when he was supposed to be. The rest of them, like I said, all got the money and the plans, I guess, and that's where we see the last of them. So where we go from there, I could not tell you if they're going to try to spread, the news about Nero and what he's doing, or if the fire is, already going, it's too late for that. Who knows? So yeah, just wanted to give this one a shout out, especially because, like I said, give some indie love this week. We're going to be lacking quite heavily on the indies. So let's get into our new polls. So here we got our polls for the week. Like I said, kind of a lighter week, not too many. I did not count them, I don't know how many exactly, but all Marvel and DC stuff, no indie polls, so we're just going to go right through them. We got, right on top here, issue number 2, both of our Spider-Man Torn and our Spider-Man Noir. I definitely preferred Noir out of the both of these, but still, both of them I thought were just alright. Nothing like super crazy or that I'm like, oh god, I need more of this, so this issue probably for me, for both of these, is going to be the deciding factor whether or not I continue them. Like I said, I'm definitely more intrigued on this one. This story, we've got a new villain, like a first-time Spider-Man villain, which is interesting. I'm kind of curious to see more about her. She was like a weird demon thing. Honestly, she just made me think of the monster from the beginning of the Percy Jackson movie. I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar, but the beginning of the first Percy Jackson movie, when they're at the museum on the field trip and the like lady who's disguised as this beast, demon, whatever, transforms them. It just makes me think of that, so that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with Spider-Man Torn. Next up, we've got our 3 Age of Revelation issues. I was kind of upset. I saw some covers for these. I didn't realize they were like the expensive variants, so I didn't end up getting them. But Iron and Frost, issue number 2. Like I said, at this point, I'm just going to be checking out Age of Revelation, so I'm not really going to be dropping them. But this was one of the ones I was kind of iffy on, just to see what happens, how we get to the point where Iron Man's at. Rogue Storm, issue number 2. This is one of the ones that I was an immediate like, oh yes, I am fully in on this story. For those of you who don't know, Rogue versus Storm. Storm has gone mad. She's been possessed by like dark magic and stuff, and grief and everything's taken over. So she's kind of out to destroy like the world, I guess. I don't know. She's threatening to freeze it over basically. So Rogue and her team are looking to stop them. It looks like Gambit shows up in this one from the the Unbreakable X-Men series. So already a lot of crossovers are happening. And then we've got Sinister Six. This was another one. I wanted one of the variant covers that was really cool, but this is still a variant, just not the one that I was looking for originally. I do like this one a lot with Logan and Venom getting chopped up there. So yeah, got those three for Age of Revelation this week. And then for our DC, we got 3 titles here. One of them, the DC KO tie-in Aquaman. This is Aquaman issue number 11. I only have the first issue of this line. I have not read any of it other than that one. So I've heard good things. I wanted to check it out when the trade came out. But yeah, we'll be seeing how this one is and how it ties into the event. Then, last but not least, we've got our 2 Black Label reads for the week. We've got Superman Kryptonite Spectrum issue number 4, I believe. Yes, number 4. I've been loving this. I love the Kryptonite Spectrum. This one's been really good, so I'm very excited to see what happens now that Superman's in like the 5th dimension. And our final issue we've got is Batman Static Beyond. So, Batman Beyond Static Shock, new DC Black Label series. I don't know how long this one's going to be. I am lightly familiar with Static Shock and Batman Beyond. I've seen stuff from both of them, like old cartoons and stuff, but I don't know really anything at all about the characters like that. If I'm being honest, out of all these reads, this is probably my most anticipated for the week. I'll be reading this one in this video because this is the one I want to know the most of. Unfortunately, I don't have time to read more. I would love to read even the Kryptonite Spectrum or one of the Marvel ones, one of the Age of Revelations, but yeah, we'll save this for next week when I cover, my polls and stuff before. But yeah, we'll be reading this one in this video because, like I said, it's my most anticipated. I think this is a really cool combo. Batman Beyond and Static Shock, looks grown, obviously. So I'm curious to see what the tone of this one is. I love me a good Black Label story, so yeah, I don't know much about it other than just the 2 characters involved. So we're just gonna get started with it and see how it goes. Alright, I don't want to say like that I was disappointed by it at all, but it definitely didn't. I don't know. It just like it didn't really do much story wise. The art was really cool. I loved the colors and the style and everything. Felt very flashy, very cool. But the story, it just felt so bleh. Nothing like super crazy that I was interested in. It felt like there was a lot of like world building stuff going on that I just kind of went over my head, if I'm being honest. It was nothing that I'm like, oh, this is really interesting, I gotta know more. The stuff with Terry at the end felt kind of a lot like the show, I guess, at least from what I remember. Just gave me similar vibes, but other than that, like, there's nothing really about this that got me hooked, I gotta say. Yeah, maybe it's just me, maybe it's space I'm in, but it's just like, I don't know, nothing about it I thought stood out to me, nothing that I really want to learn more about. I guess the conflict, the plot that was set up does not really do much for me, I can't lie. So unfortunately, like I said, I don't want to say anything negative about it. I was interested to read it, still glad I did, but not sure I'll read anymore. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so earlier I was going to end my video right there, but I got a little bit of time now, it's later, so I'm going to read one more issue. We got the DCKO Aquaman tie-in. All the other tie-ins I've read so far are always like focused more on that storyline, of course, but it's just like, hey, DCKO's going on. The character's kind of out of place right now, so here's what's happening now that they're gone. So I'm assuming that's what's going on. Like I said, I've only read the first issue, so we'll see what happens. So that was pretty decent. Like I said, kind of a tie-in with the rest of the story, more so than what's going on in DCKO, I guess. I, once again, don't know what's going on in Aquaman, so I don't know a lot of these characters. I know Mira, and I know that they have a daughter in this. I don't really know her all that much. I guess she's older now because she was gone for a while, and now she's back, and Aquaman doesn't even really know her all that much. But they're fighting a bunch of parademons that have shown up, and they're underwater, and they're trying to build basically the equivalent of their planet's like giant volcano surface. They're trying to create one underwater, which would decimate all of like the ocean sea life, as well as anyone with a certain radius on Earth even, or just like on the ground. So pretty big deal. Aquaman goes kind of crazy style, maybe a little bit overboard. Some are suggesting basically that, he kind of went all out, I guess you could say. So it seems that he was saying, whether it was him or someone else, I forget, they were saying something's in the water kind of maybe affecting them. I think it was Aquaman saying something's in the water possibly affecting the way he feels or is acting. But it kind of seems, once again, DCKO related, where there's just no holding back. It is just full force. Kind of similar with the night fight we just saw, where Batman has to keep fighting even though he doesn't want to. Seems like here Aquaman's being affected, where he's just like, once again being relentless. So who knows? We will see where it goes from there, I guess. But pretty enjoyable. I like the art style for it, but yeah, I just don't really know what's going on in the story otherwise. So we shall see. But yeah, that is gonna end the video this time. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next week's video to see, me cover the rest of the reads, and I got something else planned coming soon as well. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace.